Okay, I'm on the solo.
Check, check, check. Hey everybody, it's Rob. We're just about to get started with this week's episode. Less than 10 minutes left. While you got a couple of minutes here, why don't you go check out OTheAnthem.com. It's where you can find everything OD Anthem, including the merch store, the podcast, and all of the videos. Open up a new tab.
Anchor.fm/OTheAnthem is the place where you can get direct links to all the podcatchers you use to listen to our show every week.
Did you know we record every episode live on Facebook? Of course you do. But make sure that you're liking the page and turning on notifications so you get notified when we go live.
We make a ton of video content between the podcast, the short films, Heretics. YouTube.com/OTheAnthem is the place for it all.
And of course you can find me on any social network at Robert N. Cheek.
And me at LegendCB5.
And you can find the podcast at OD Anthem on all your social networks. Member of the board.
Yeah. And if you probably heard us talking about an episode we recorded on March 3rd, 2015, where we were talking about the 2014 National Defense Authorization Act.
Yes.
And I'd like to start right there.
Okay.
And go right into Portland.
Let's go.
Because what is going on in Portland right now is the type of worst case scenario that Rob and I were discussing, looking like crazy people at the time. Looking like fucking insane people at the time in 2013 and 2014 as the two versions. So to fill in people who don't necessarily know, the National Defense Authorization Act is something that passes every single year to authorize the budget of the everything that has to do with national defense: Army, Navy, Marines, so forth, the Homeland Security, border security, all these different assets which are underneath of national security. So every single year it's passed, and every lobbyist compelled piece of new law that becomes part of how the government works.
The pork.
Yeah. And in 2013 and 2014 specifically, the lobbyist-controlled ideals that were coming through and were not being stopped and were being propelled by Democrats mostly was horrifying and disgusting. And both Rob and I have I feel like you and I have the same sort of thing about like when somebody goes like, oh man, I just wish we could go back to Obama. And then we immediately have flashbacks to, you don't even remember this shit. You don't even remember the worst things. Because, like, much like everybody, I like Obama. Like, I think, like I have a personal fondness for the man, I think that I don't feel like he's some trade as, but at the same time, you can't not drone strike villages full of people and massively increase the capability of the Patriot Act at a time where you're saying that you're getting rid of it, and instilling into law the ability for the federal government to work as its own police force.
Yeah.
And without any kind of due process, eliminate people who are perceived to be terrorist threats against the United States. That is a very far cry from everything that this government was founded on from the very beginning about how people are supposed to be treated for infractions against law. And
don't forget, also Obama said he was going to wrap up the militarization of local police. Didn't do that. Expanded the program of selling military arms to local police. He was going to shut down Guantanamo Bay, not the military base, excuse me, but the prison. Didn't do that. Was going to end the war in Afghanistan. Didn't do that. Was going to end the war in Iraq. Didn't do that. Did raise our value amongst allies worldwide. Did bomb brown children using drones. Now, the benefit, we don't have people who are mentally scarred by being on the ground in a different place, or a pilot dropping a bomb and turning around like as he goes to pass over the damage and realizing like, oh wait, that wasn't a military objective, that was a wedding.
Or that was a school.
Yeah. And so
or any number of the things that were constant sources of drone strikes to get one person at the expense of 200 people.
And there are drone pilots, but the weapons fire. So there's a pilot who's piloting the drone. He hits the fire button when he's authorized. Nothing about the targeting is done by him. It's all done by satellite from whoever is picking.
Saw, but Chicago apparently had a CIA-style jail set up on the northeast side.
3 years ago that National Defense Authorization Act thing happened.
It was. And 3 years ago I said, if we're not careful, the cops are going to set up secret jails where they're going to torture people and no constitutional protections. And Corey and everyone else, including the bitch that I was dating at the time, said, why are you being so crazy?
No,
this will never happen.
I was very upset about it at the time.
That's true, too.
I was very upset about it.
I needed a name. I couldn't just say the bitch that I was dating at the time. But, no, and I said, this allows them to set up secret jails. Like, instead of being in Turkey, where they're torturing people, they'll be here and torturing people. And people were like, listen, you went full tinfoil. Never go to full tinfoil. Is that Chicago set up a secret jail where they didn't book you. You didn't have a right to an attorney. They tortured people, and it all happened to American citizens.
Yeah.
And that was going on in the city of Chicago. The Chicago police were directly asked by the reporters from The Guardian, and they said, no jail like that exists. But if it did exist, it's authorized under the NDAA. And I'm like, now the Chicago PD is sounding like the FBI and the CIA? Like, no, we absolutely do not have forces in the area. But if they were in the area, they would only be there. Only there because the president authorized it. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? So, yeah, American citizens who say I'm a crackpot and I'm crazy and that the police state is not that big a deal, there are jails. And this is one that's been pointed out. That doesn't mean it's the only one that exists.
Yeah.
There are jails where police will take you against your will. They will put you in cuffs, but you are not arrested because no constitutional rights apply. That happens when you get arrested. You'll never go to a police precinct. They won't fingerprint you. They won't take your picture. They won't take your information. Nothing. What they will do is they will stick you in a room, and when they are ready, they will waterboard you, a version of waterboarding, which is that instead of doing the actual waterboarding, they put a towel across your face. In torturous waterboarding, generally, they don't use a towel. They tuck a towel in your mouth, which is a whole different thing. But anyway, they put the towel across your face, they waterboard you, they sleep deprive you until you admit to doing what you were doing. And they found 5 people. One guy got arrested with personal possession of pot. Something that, by the way, 150 miles away, maybe it's a stretch, 500 miles away, perfectly legal. Perfectly legal to own and buy it from a store. Mm-hmm. And he gets taken to this secret prison where they torture him for 6 or 7 days and then release him. And they say, if you ever say anything about this place, we'll fucking kill you. Or you can end up back here for good. We can hold you as long as we want.
This week on the The Anthem podcast, Joe Kelly is suspended 8 games for throwing at the Astros, and the question all baseball fans have is why? In COVID news, Herman Cain sadly passes away after going maskless at the Trump rally. In news, there's an earthquake in Los Angeles, and it's not just Jose Weezer getting 34 counts in federal prison. We have more conversations about Biden's VP, tech CEOs at an antitrust hearing before Congress, and then a bunch of Trump stuff going on with his laundering campaign money, floating delaying the election. Schools must open, and a whole lot more. You don't want to miss this one. Come and join us right now on the The Anthem podcast. Oh, hello again, you. This is Corey, and this is the Anthem podcast.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's Rob. Welcome to episode 230 of the Anthem podcast. Coming to you from the hashtag OTA LA studios, high above the 110 freeway in downtown Los Angeles, California. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, the best way to listen to us, if you're listening to us in podcast form, believe it or not, anchor.fm/The Anthem. It gives you the links to all the different places that we are available on podcatchers.
And, of course, if you want to watch this live, you can do that at Facebook, Periscope, YouTube, and Twitch. Add The Anthem on all those sources. Comment wherever you are on the stream, and we'll get it. Or you can join us in the Discord, and that will pop up right here. Anywhere. Ooh, wait, right here. Yeah. Anywhere that you make a comment, you'll see it right there. So we can pull it up and discuss your comments live. Although, keep in mind, there is a little bit of a delay.
Especially today.
Today. So make sure that you kind of let us know what it is that you're talking about, not just commenting on it.
Yeah, I mean, if you comment, I agree with Corey. I mean, I appreciate it, but I don't know exactly to what point.
And so just keep in mind that actually I realized that the Discord invite was expiring every single episode. So now we have a permanent Discord invite.
Okay.
So you could click on that link and join the Discord for all time, and you'll always be able to access the show there.
Excellent.
Yeah, so.
Up top.
Getting to you first. Here we go. Go ahead. Sorry.
Up front, we just wanted to send a belated happy birthday to friend of the show, Jim. He's been on a couple times.
Yes.
You mentioned to me last night as I was driving you home that it was Jim's birthday, and I was like, oh, fuck.
Yep.
And then today got away from me, too. But
I don't know if you understand this,
Jim.
Corey, but dates mean nothing now. So lucky for you, your birthday happened
quarantine?
Early in the quarantine.
It was a month in, yeah.
Yeah. I know that my sister / Rachel's birthday is coming up at some point, and it will likely pass by without me taking any notice. So apologies, Jim, but I'm not going to remember my sister's birthday either. So
I'll remember it on August 19th or something like that.
Yeah. But as I tend to do every year that we remember Jim's birthday, I want to remind everyone that they should check out the video that's going to be down in the show notes. Meeting an old friend. It is
or right up here. We'll do it.
Do a card.
Yeah.
It'll be up in this corner here, and it is a fantastic piece of cinema. Everyone should watch it. It stars these two gentlemen on the show here.
When we were fucking like 18 or something like that. So.
And what I'd like you to do, not that I'm going to advise you to go away from the video version of the podcast, but pause it and then go watch that and look at those two faces and then come back and look at these two faces.
It was before I could grow facial hair. Thank everyone for the fact that in the 20 years that have come since then, I've been able to grow a little bit of facial hair. So.
Yes, we're all thankful for that. Anyway, and another birthday shout out. Anyway, so happy birthday, Jim. And, we appreciate your viewership and your friendship.
Yes.
Forever. And another friend of the show, Barack Obama's birthday is tomorrow. So we do want to say happy birthday, Barack.
He was really upset last year when we didn't give him a birthday message.
And it just fell in the middle of the week, and we really have a problem with the in-between episode birthdays.
Right.
If it's a weekend or the day before, we're good. Day after, we're good. It says middle of the week birthday.
I mean, the only reason why I'd say happy birthday to Barack Obama at all is because it probably annoys Trump to a great deal.
Yes.
So.
I mean, I would really love for Barack Obama to give, the third candidate for president a shout out. Like, hey, thanks, Rob. I
think I'm voting for Joe, but this Rob Cheek guy, he's got some ideas.
Listen, publicly, I'm voting for Joe. Whatever happens when I go inside and pull that curtain shut, that's for me.
The sanctity of my voting envelope is mine and mine alone.
Oh, we're going to talk about voting, guys. Don't worry. But before we get to that, I think that for 2 consecutive weeks now, it's a glorious return. We have some sports.
In sports ball, do we have?
Yes, indeed.
So let's start with this. Joe Kelly of the Los Angeles Dodgers was suspended, or I think he's appealing right now. I haven't heard.
Yeah, he did. He appealed immediately, and because the season's so short, he may not have to serve it. So we'll see. It may be next season.
Eventually, the baseball appeals board will meet at some point, and they'll figure it out.
They'll figure it out. It's fine.
But yes, he got suspended for throwing at Alex Bregman and then throwing at Carlos Correa right after that. And this is one of those times where I feel like.
Well, wait. Why would we recognize those names, Corey?
Because they're members of the cheating Astros who stole the World Series from the Dodgers.
Okay.
I assumed everyone was up onto the backstory here, but it's so clear to me, and much like I've said for the entirety of this podcast, that Gary Bettman has an active hatred of his fan base. I feel like Rob Manfred, in a similar regard, is doing the exact same thing. Like, it's clear that he is not a baseball fan. He's more of he's like a hired secretary or something like that that's handling Major League Baseball, but he doesn't care about the sport that he governs over at all.
Yeah.
I mean, when he called the World Series trophy a piece of metal, like just, the thing that all 30 of these teams are doing everything they can to win. Like
billions of dollars being spent to hold this piece of metal.
Right. And people crying when their team finally gets it. The Boston Red Sox fans after 86 years and the Cubs fans after, 108 or whatever it was. Like all these people who fucking die and never seeing their team win. It's just like, this hunk of metal. Like,
little did they know they could have gone down to their local metal shop and just had it made, a copy made.
I am of the mind that Rob Manfred should not have suspended Joe Kelly for 8 games. I think they should have put it out as a fine. Say we're going to fine you a substantial amount of money. And then Joe Kelly, because it just goes to charity, maybe Joe Kelly could just be like, hey, who wants to pay my fine? And then I'm sure all the Dodger fans would dole out a little bit to go toward the charitable organization that pays for Joe Kelly's fine. The fact that he was suspended at all, Manfred basically doesn't want people throwing at the Astros all season long, but I don't know how you can avoid that per se because they cheated, and that's usually doesn't get forgotten about pretty quickly.
So essentially, Corey is making 2 Rob Manfred.
Yeah.
For those of you who aren't
I miss
fans.
Fred Manfred too.
Yeah. Fred Manfred was the longtime color man for the Orioles broadcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Color on the radio.
Color on the radio. Yeah.
Joe Angel.
He is Joe Angel. I missed them. So Corey is making 2 Rob Manfred. Was it Correa that he was making his face at?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, I do enjoy that. There's not really many opportunities that you get to use that face.
Yeah.
Like if me and you were having an argument on the street, like I took your parking spot or something like that, and I went like,
yeah.
Then you'd be like, wow, what a really, like low class, like just immature person. Like that.
Yeah.
That's such an immature thing to do. When I see Joe Kelly do it, I'm just like, he's a battle tested athlete in the heart of adrenaline, and this is what came to him in the moment. Like, I don't know, it just works.
The thing
for
I wanted
reason.
to touch on, just the logic of it all. We watched the entire side of that game, or his last ending there.
The John Boy breakdown on that is very good. If you're looking for a blow by blow on the action,
but he had no control the entire half an inning.
None.
Just basically, it was what's his name from Major League? It was
Wild Thing.
A wild thing for Major
Yeah.
League. Yeah, well, how did I not remember that? But just basically, like,
Just a bit outside.
he was getting the signal and then coming to and just being like, all right, I'm just going to throw it that direction and hope for the best. And I don't think he got it in the strike zone maybe twice of all of the pitches he threw that entire
well, I mean, the
side.
fastball he certainly did not have at all.
Yeah.
Because when he struck out Altuve or something like that in between, there was like 3 straight curveballs.
Yeah.
It was clear that he just didn't have a feel for his fastball. You know he didn't have a feel for his fastball because he didn't actually hit Bregman or Correa. Like,
He may have been throwing at him
if you're trying
unsuccessfully.
to hit them, usually you make some sort of contact, you
Yeah.
know? And I mean, like, really, more than anything, I feel like if I'm a baseball player, if I'm putting myself in that position, I'm trying to hit them in a way that makes it look like I'm not trying to hit them.
Yeah.
So
3 wild pitches before that, not great.
if you go 3 up on a guy and then you throw one behind his head, then like, yeah, that one doesn't look great. But Correa's, it just looked like he just didn't have that fastball and it came way in.
Yeah.
And then
What
Correa
was-
was upset that he was throwing curveballs because he couldn't get it across.
He threw one in the dirt and
Yeah.
then overcompensated and missed way high and outside. And it's like, I'm going to pull it back. I'm going to pull it back inside. And then threw it behind him. And it's like, oh, you just can't hit anything right now.
Right.
Stick to the off-speed stuff. Let's just get it across the plate. And also, I think the third strikeout of that inning, didn't he like swing at a pitch way out of the strike zone?
Yeah, I mean,
And that's
Correa
why-
struck out on one that was like probably 6 inches low of the strike zone.
Yeah,
But, you know,
and
a
that's why he
curveball
can-
that just like dips down, that's easy to...
He gave him the face. He was
Yeah.
just like, I got nothing. Why are you swinging at that? Like, were you not standing over there watching this? Like, honestly,
I don't know where it's going to go.
not that I am a professional baseball player, but I think I would have gone in there I would have taken to 3-2 and just been like, all right, now I got to get serious. I
See,
don't know.
here's where the conspiracy theory part of my brain starts working.
Okay.
There's a famous clip from this offseason of Joe Kelly working on his changeup.
Oh,
and
yeah.
he throws it through the
Into the-
window of his house, and like his wife like walks in. It's like Joe's working on his changeup, and
there's
you
a
see
hole
the
in the-
broken glass in the hole, and it's just like, how's that going, Joe? I mean, you know, it's not outside of the realm of possibility that Joe Kelly just doesn't have control anytime. So
Could be.
maybe
Who knows?
maybe this is just part of his shtick.
He goes back
I mean,
to
it's
the
like
dugout.
I remember Daniel Cabrera used to hit people all the time, and it's not because I thought he was going out to try and hit people. I just think that he had no idea where the ball was gonna go. Like
Yeah, and again,
he
there's
was trying to throw it 100 miles an hour, and sometimes when you do that, it just
those
veers
are
off.
the players where you're like, if he wanted to hit you, he could not hit you.
if he's trying, he can't.
He can't hit
And you-
anything.
You know why? Because he tried to hit 2 of them and didn't.
Yeah, the catcher just calls the sign, and then as the pitcher comes set, raises up and just gets ready because he's like, I don't know where this is going. I'm just going to try to knock it down and keep it in front of me.
There's no just sitting on your heels like waiting for the. Got to get a little bit crazy. Got to get in the butterfly stance for this one. You know.
It's your goalie, the Capitals goalie.
Oh, Braden Holtby.
Braden Holtby.
Yeah.
He comes back from the inning with the eyes. He's just like, I don't know where it's going to come from. I don't know where it's going to go, man. I'm just watching everywhere.
Yeah, now that playoff hockey is back too, by the way. and
Did 2 teams get eliminated, and now we're going to go off into the playoffs?
no, we have all the regular 16 teams, I think.
They're all going into
yeah.
playoffs this year. Oh, okay, cool.
But I was I'm a pretty smart guy, and I was like reading how the playoffs work, and I have fucking no clue. Like they're gonna play 4 games in a round robin style to determine seeding, but then they're gonna do a bracket that doesn't follow an order, and they're gonna have reseeding. They're not gonna do reseeding in the bracket, and they're gonna throw out the rules about like division winners getting the first 3 spots or first 4. You know, like the whole thing is like kind of weird. And I'm like sitting here like I'm just gonna watch, and it's gonna become evident to me at some point.
Well, I know Corey was talking about putting a bet down on the NHL Finals, and he was like, all right, got this set, and he just went and threw the money off the balcony, and he was like, it's going to do just as good. I don't really know. So
If it comes back to me as more than it was meant to be. No, but there was a part of me that got a little bit squirrely about going to make an Orioles bet though after the sweep of the Rays.
it's getting interesting.
Getting swept by the Yankees to lose 18 straight against them was not great, but
well, it looks like the Yankees are a professional baseball team. Who knew?
it looks like it's the Yankees and everyone else pretty much.
Yeah.
But
$500 million.
especially with Aaron Judge hitting home runs like he has been, and somebody please check on Matt Vasgersian. I'm worried about his heart. That was it's so funny listening to these announcers because they're trying to figure out the right level. You know, because it's no fans in the stands, so there's sort of like an aspect where some people are calling it like a golf game.
Yeah.
And then there's Vasgersian like peeking out the mic going like, you know, like, holy shit, fucking Aaron Judge.
But
this
I think
one went an astonishing 430 feet.
there's a level of that is you can tell when guys are fans of the game. Like that was his 5th game in a row, right? So he's like, as a fan, you're stoked, and then it's like, oh wait, I'm on the radio, okay, or on TV, okay. Let me bring that back down here. We're gonna come back down to a more reasonable level, and all right.
I always find it funny. Like there was a Bill Clinton went into the booth during Cal's 21-31 game, and he was there when Cal hit the home run during that game. And
all right.
it really is funny watching Bill Clinton's reaction because he like doesn't have any like everyone else is like ramping up around him. It's just like it's long, it's deep, it's a home run, and Bill's like, wow, that one really traveled. So it was like he didn't have anything to say. He was like, wow.
Was he still president at that time? What year was that? Yeah.
Yeah.
So the
95.
president was in the booth.
Yeah.
I'd like to see Trump try that.
I wouldn't.
At a Dodger game. Let's see if Joe Kelly can ping him in from the mound.
Paul, he's just going in there. He's just like, you know, I like Paul O'Neill. We should bring Paul O'Neill back. It's just, Paul O'Neill's like 55 years old. And he can still do it, I'm pretty sure. I saw him in the course. He's looking great.
Said the same thing about me. Too old. Can't do it.
Can't
Look
do
at
it.
me.
Look at
Great
me.
job.
Greatest president in the history of the world. Paul O'Neill, greatest Yankee who ever played. It's just like, I'm pretty sure that's not the fact.
No. He's okay.
I think he's probably 30th or 40th in Yankee outfielders alone, but I'm sure, I guess.
Well, listen, then it fits with Trump calling him the best ever because, you know,
well,
30th or 40th, best president.
The problem is the next day, my Facebook feed is filled with people going like, why isn't Paul O'Neill in the Hall of Fame? Fuck this, people.
Yeah, see, you made the mistake of talking near
He
your
had
phone.
197 career home runs. That should be good enough.
Please send Corey all sorts of messages about why Paul O'Neill should be the greatest
threatening as to why Paul O'Neill should be in the Hall of Fame.
All right. So that's all we got this week. So that's it for Sports Ball. I forgot we switched stuff around, so we are talking about
COVID.
Oh, damn, I didn't get the picture of... So this is going to be the funny part. I got the picture of the dog. I didn't get the picture.
Should we start with the dog?
Oh, 2020 is the worst year absolutely ever. I cannot speak enough about that. But yeah, let's start with the dog. So in COVID news, this is Buddy. Buddy is I think they said 13-year-old German Shepherd. And the reason that Buddy is important is because he is the first canine to be positively identified during his life as having COVID-19. He lived in Staten Island with his owner. And while that is some stark news, I hate that we live in 2020 because it's really just clickbait. Because the reality is, Buddy was dying from cancer.
Right.
And spent basically all of his time in bed. And his owner, who has been home from work also this time, also spent basically all of their time in bed. And owner went out at some time, got exposed, and came home to the bed where Buddy was. And then essentially what I'm saying is this. No matter what the mammal is, if it has lungs and you are spending immense amount of times in very close proximity, essentially being like, oh, Buddy, I love you so much. Yeah. Viruses will cross breeds, not easily, but with enough contact, it'll happen. Especially something that's respiratory. Like your fish won't get infected. Different respiratory system.
That doesn't make sense. I'm going to find a doctor who disagrees with you.
A vet? Yeah. You're going to want a vet this time, trust me. Although maybe that doctor that's been coming out, she'll probably have an opinion about that. But
I'm
anyway,
a vet too.
So the reason I really wanted to talk about this was I saw a lot of people posting about this.
You have to go to veterinary school for demon sperm.
I saw a lot of people posting about this, and the funny thing is, I saw people saying, "Oh my God, it's crossing breeds. This is going to be the worst thing ever." And then I saw, "Hey, this is fake news. First of all, COVID isn't even real, so a dog couldn't get it, and they're killing dogs now to make it seem like it's like okay." Neither of you are right. This is a very rare thing, and it's rare because of very particular circumstances. A very sick animal in very close proximity to someone who then contracted the virus and was sick. So,
I mean, the problem I think is that, there's also more stories I've been hearing about people who are getting sick again.
yeah.
Not a lot of stories. It seems to be sort of on the periphery, but, there was a lot of speculation when this first started about how long you would have antibodies to coronavirus if you were exposed to it, and I feel like if dogs were going to get it easily, then more would have gotten it by now. You know what I mean? It just seems like the fact that this is the first story of this kind. We've had like a rare story about like a tiger getting it, I think, and like some other animal getting it.
Also the same situation.
Right, but I mean,
sick
like,
animal that was in close contact with humans.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not that it can't happen, but it's just very rare. I think that, we should be paying more attention to like children than we should be paying attention to dogs, just because it seems like even though children don't get sick or die from it, they are exceptional at spreading the disease. So,
well, and I mean, like, if we want to talk about more general COVID news, the teenage group is the fastest growing group in California right now, because essentially we made the mistake of telling teens, "Hey, you can't get it. Don't worry." Yeah. And they're like, "All right, so it's party time, guys." And then it turns out like, "Oh, you can actually get it. It's a thing." So, So teens are getting it, and I think that every state
there's
has
more like
deaths.
COVID parties I'm hearing about too, which is just like
People are dumb.
maddening to me, because
People are dumb.
we don't even know what the long-term effects of this are. Like, if it's the flu and you get it and then you're sick for a while and then you get over it, hypothetically, obviously there's a lot of people who are dying, but I'm saying, like, if you're a healthy 21-year-old, the chances are low. So, if you're thinking about, like, oh, I'll get it and then I'll be done with it, like the chicken pox, you don't know that in 10 years you might develop some sort of lung cancer because you had it before. Like, there seems to be different like strains essentially of the virus, and if you get a particularly potent one, even if you are a young healthy person, the chance of a respirator, even if you will survive it at the end of it, is much higher. So it's there's too much that's unknown about it, and I feel like there's people who are like, "No, we know everything we need to know about this now." Like, no, it's not.
We really don't.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, so I got shingles in college, and shingles is the chickenpox virus. But you usually don't get shingles unless you are super unhealthy. That was me. Or you're old, basically.
Yeah.
And so the doctor told me, like, okay, so here's the thing. Not a lot of 20-year-olds get shingles, but I can tell you what old people expect, and that is from now on, you're really going to have to watch this, because if your immune system takes a hit, you can get an outbreak. And if you get an outbreak of shingles on your head, it can cause major brain issues. Yeah. So we need to watch the eyes, watch the nose, watch the ears. Anywhere that it could get access to the brain cavity, it's going to be a problem. This is what COVID is. We have no idea. In fact, they know more about shingles than they know about COVID. Yeah. And there are long-term things that we have absolutely no idea about. Oh, I got exposed to it. I exposed myself on purpose. Now I don't have to worry about it. I got the antibodies. I'm fine. Well, actually, it turns out that makes you more susceptible to the really deadly one. That there's the different strain when it comes back around. Good. So
yeah, I don't know. This whole thing is just fucking maddening to me. I'm so done with these stupid people. I just don't know what to say anymore.
I got really in depth with it. So also, I said last week, but the campaigning has now gotten me more into Facebook, which is a mistake, and I hate it. But what are you gonna do? And I got into this long thing with someone on Facebook because they posted something that says, "Look, the WHO and CDC both said most people who get coronavirus will recover from it." And I just responded like, "Yes. We've known this. We accept this." But let's say 5% of people have serious complications or death. With something normal where you're talking about, it impacts 20% of the population, 5% of 20% of the population is a big number, but it's not huge. Right. The difficulty is you have an inability to conceptualize the large number we're talking about. 5% of 300 million people is 1.7 million people.
Yeah.
1.7 million people die. It's going to be a huge thing.
Well, and it's not, the problem to me is that, like, nobody seems to give a shit about how this, Australia shut down one of their cities. I can't remember what, was it Auckland? Auckland, New Zealand.
New
sorry.
Zealand.
Yeah, I'm thinking, what is the other one?
Brisbane.
Was it Brisbane?
I don't know. I think it might be Brisbane.
I was thinking of another Australian city, which is where I got Auckland mixed up. But
Queensland.
it
Sydney?
might have been Brisbane though. But anyway, I remember seeing the thing like they're shut down. They're not allowing movement because in one day we had 690 cases.
Yeah.
And that was enough to
Nip it in the bud.
throw the book at everybody and be like, we're shutting this shit down. LA had, 2,500 cases every day last week or something like that.
Yep.
And, the comparable size between Brisbane and Los Angeles can be disputed. But I mean, like, we're talking about, a lot of people. And
also, they went from like 3 cases, 600. And
Yeah.
they're like, oh, nope. Marking this, knocking it down.
Right.
We've been carrying 1,500 to 25 cases a day for months. So
we have effective, we're at 150,000 deaths right now, more than 150,000 deaths.
in the U.S. alone.
I feel like almost 145,000 of these deaths could be attributed to us not being on top of this because almost every other nation in the world has figured out a way to nip it in the bud, except for the very poorly run ones like America and Brazil. And like,
what do those two places have in common?
it's amazing that like, and there's a lot of countries that say they're doing well, but we don't know they're doing well. Russia is saying like, we have 5 cases, not a big deal. But I don't believe that for a second. And much like I don't believe China is accurately portraying their numbers either.
No.
But, the South Korea, Florida one is always the one that fucking fascinates me the most. South Korea is 3 times the size of Florida, and they had 14,000 cases total. On the same day that Florida, 1/3 the size of South Korea, had 14,000 cases in one day.
Yep.
So it's like, we're clearly doing something very, very wrong here. And the fact that we can't, there's no turning around the idiots who are absolutely sure that this is a hoax. And that,
Well, so here's the thing, though, because South Korea has those idiots, too.
yeah.
The difference is they're not in the White House.
Right.
Or the Gray Houses, which is what they have in South
Yeah.
Korea. Because when this started,
South Korea also has the sadness of being a more locked down country.
Yeah.
So if you are a troublemaker, you can be isolated for a little while without anyone knowing.
I was going to
So-
say, they
I mean, we're doing that in the United States too, but it's much more prevalent in South Korea.
They basically said, okay, once we realize it's a public health threat, we're going to turn it over to the health minister, and he has the power to shut everything down.
Yeah.
And we said, hey, this is Fauci. He's going to tell you what to do. No, don't tell him that. All right, we're going to talk to the CDC. No, don't tell him that. All right, don't wear a mask. It's fine.
Inject bleach.
Yeah, and check bleach. It'll be fine. Well, yeah, and as Corey said, we hit 150,000 deaths. Do you want to talk about the one very important death, though, that happened this week?
Yeah, I mean, and much to I don't relish any part of this, but Herman Cain certainly seemed to have a very karmic end, given how much he was pushing the idea that this is a hoax and there will be no mass at the Trump rally, and then apparently he got sick at the Trump Tulsa rally, and he is, what was he, like 74 years old or something like that?
I think he's about the same age as Trump. So
Yeah, and had just survived some very serious form of cancer.
Yep, cancer didn't kill him.
No.
COVID did.
Yeah, and pretty quickly too.
Yep.
There seems to be story. Chuck Woolery had a tweet that Trump retweeted where he was just like, it's a hoax, and Fauci and the WHO and everyone's just trying to get implants or microchips implanted in us, and then his son gets it the next day, and he's like, this is really serious. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make light of it.
And deleted the tweet, by the way.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of people just get it finally hits somebody that they know, and then it's a real thing,
I do not understand. I will never understand Americans' inability to put themselves in another person's shoes unless it's someone they personally know. Like,
right.
This is absolutely a hoax. And then you see, like, my sister got it.
Well, this is
Now it's serious.
This is the argument I was making forever about, gay rights and, like any kind of interaction between a different type of community from you. If you grow up and you never see a black person until you're 18 years old, you're going to have a very different opinion of what black people are like than if you grow up and, you're interspersed evenly amongst the community with a whole bunch of different other people. If you never meet a gay person, then you start making intuitions about what gay people are.
Also, you're probably hearing those from the people around you,
and if you're in a place where there's, a less of a gay community, you're in Alabama or something like that, you're probably hearing a lot of derogatory things about it as well. And then you come in with those biases already put in you. And then, I feel like, the first time I, met somebody who was gay and I talked to them about it, I was just like, holy shit, like, this is so easy. If I just had talked to somebody, I would know. Like, and nobody seems to have that same level of curiosity for this. The coronavirus. Yeah, like
anything really.
Like the other one that's like getting me crazy is like, obviously we're dealing with the coronavirus, unemployment package and everything like that that's going on in Washington. And there's people who are just like, well, we can't keep giving handouts to these people, and it's just like, I'm not asking for a hand. I really didn't want to file for unemployment.
Yeah. I got bills to pay, son. I don't know.
But there's nothing I can do. And, it's not like my only options are either work unsafely or not work and not make any money and just go in debt. But like, the people who are just like, I'm not hungry, so I can't understand why other people are hungry. Like, it's just like, makes no sense.
Yes. In other news, as John Oliver said, in other news, I ate earlier, so we've ended world hunger. Yay. It's disturbing. But in, I guess, more disturbing news in so much as it impacts us specifically, there was an earthquake in LA last week.
Yeah.
What the hell? And I actually felt this one, which was interesting.
A change of pace.
Yeah. Now, I think about a year ago, we had a big one as well. And I felt that one. I was actually at a party, I want to say Memorial Day party, 4th of July party at work. But
it sounds right.
4th of July maybe. But we had a pool, or we had like a kiddie pool that we had beers in with ice. But by this hour, most of it had melted. And like my feet felt weird, and I looked down, and the water was sloshing in the pool. And I'm like, oh, hey, earthquake. That's cool. This one, the ones at 4 o'clock in the morning, much less cool. Because I woke up like, what's going on? And I live in an older building.
I know. Maybe you had a different experience because of the age of your building.
Yeah.
But I would say that I woke up and then I had that thing where I was just like, was that an earthquake? And then Rachel's awake and she's just like, was that an earthquake? And I'm just like, okay, so it's probably an earthquake.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like, I mean, I'm not trying to tempt fate here, but
not the big one.
If it was something much larger than that, I'm sure we wouldn't be questioning whether or not it was an earthquake.
No, and
somewhere in the 4s, if it's happening far enough away. This one was happening.
I got a nice map here.
Like north of North Hollywood, right?
4.2, and it happened in the San Fernando Valley, actually just past the hills. Was the epicenter. So. Actually, I was a lot closer as well. So it happened like half a mile away from me, 3 or 4 miles away from you. Well, I mean,
the one that I think we had a year ago that we talked about was way further out in the desert somewhere.
Yes.
But it was a larger quake, but the aftershocks were like equivalent to like a 4 for us. But yeah, I mean, it's very interesting. There's a lot of earthquakes that are going on right now. I don't know if you've taken a peek over at the LA earthquake bot.
Oh, I have it to pop up alerts for every text. It's disturbing.
There's the one spot where this earthquake emanated from. I was just like, I went through the feed to like look for it to find out exactly how big it was because we were talking about it. And I'm scrolling and I've been like, there's been fucking 36 2.0 or lower earthquakes coming from this area all day. Since the big one last night, there has been 30 of these smaller ones. This is kind of alarming.
You read that story and it's just like, so this is either the big one that releases the pressure, or this was the prequel quake to something much larger. Like they do so the plates rub together and it either shifted largely and now it's stuck on a real big hook. And what it's going to take is a big movement in order for it to let loose.
Yeah.
Or it was stuck on a real big hook, and the 4-2 is what got us past.
Right.
So that, this is the kind of thing where it's like, I want to be informed, but then you read and you're like, I wish I had not read that.
I wish I didn't have as much curiosity about this as I do.
You woke up and were like, yeah, was that an earthquake? When in my building, again, I live in a little bit older building, it was much more of like, oh, earthquake. And then Carly, producer Carly, who's not with us today, raised her head and looked at me like, the fuck, man? And I was just
Why'd you do this to me?
I was like, hang on to it. I don't know. But my phone and the vape and everything are over on the side table, and I got a little bit of a rattle. As it happened, and then I looked over at Roxy, and she slept through the whole thing. And I don't know if it's the difference between being born and raised in LA and not, because. Also, I went to my work Slack, and it was all of the East Coasters who are living here now who were like, was that an earthquake? Everybody feel that? And then the next day or later on was all the LA people like, we had an earthquake today? And I feel like a 4-2 is not something that LA natives get all worked up
Well,
about,
I mean, 4-2 I feel like was what the Maryland quake was. And that was something that people were like summarily making fun of. The 1 yard share that fell down.
We will rebuild from the earthquake of 2014. Although I was in D.C. when that one happened because the one day I decided to return my law books to like whatever company. It's the day that an earthquake happens in D.C. And then I got there and they're like, yeah, we have to close. We can't take your books back. I'm like, I drove in an earthquake to get here, man. Like, what do you want?
Is there some sort of drop I can do?
Is there some place put the books
Can I just hurl these through their window or something?
Turns out they're not huge fans of that. I don't know if you know that.
I did it anyway.
But in other political earthquake news, Joe Biden's still without a vice presidential candidate.
Yes, but apparently there's word from the campaign that next week we will have that. So this is our last week to wildly speculate on what Joe Biden is going to do.
And so I think it was probably earlier this year when we heard like, there's like a 15 name list. And then also we heard this week, okay, we have a short list of 11, of which 5 are like really the prime choice of the list. And if you're watching the video version, you can see a little display here where Joe is looking particularly creepy. And he's surrounded by Tammy Duckworth, Kamala Harris, can't remember the name of the girl, the woman on the top. Elizabeth Warren.
Bass?
What's that?
Is it Karen Bass?
No.
Susan Rice or
Rice?
It's not. It's not on mine yet. So
yes.
I don't.
Susan Rice is above Elizabeth Warren, and then a face I didn't recognize until our pre-show meeting when Corey let me know that is L.A. Representative Karen Bass, not my representative, and not your representative. I don't think, but Karen Bass, who is a former powerhouse of Southern California, who ran for Congress and now serves as a representative.
Yeah.
And the short list, meaning the 11 list, not necessarily the 5. We don't know who's on what, but...
I mean, it seems pretty obvious that the 5 names at the top are probably the 5 that you have listed right there.
Yes,
like
that would be my guess.
Yeah, I mean, Kamala and Elizabeth Warren seem to be the tops of the top of the list because they are, vetted in the public eye. People know who they are, so that one's an easy. That's easy to elevate them to the top of the list. Susan Rice, I think if you're doing the let's bring the gang back together thing, that makes a lot of sense. And Karen Bass seems to be the favorite of sort of the congressional Dems, which worries me. But
when Nancy Pelosi says, "Hey, that's my favorite," I got questions.
I don't want that person.
No,
instinctively, I don't want that person. But
you know who's not on that list? Your favorite from last week.
Yeah, Stacey Abrams.
No Stacey. Although I think everybody's saying she's on the 11 list. She's not on that 5 list that we have here.
Something tells me that. Keisha Lance Bottoms, who's the mayor of Atlanta, was also sort of, I think, on that 11-person short list. Something tells me that the two of them have sort of faded out a little bit just because they're not as pedigreed as the rest of the field. We got a mayor in Keisha Lance Bottoms. That's not really the same thing as being a...
Hey, Mayor Pete ran for president.
Well, yeah, but I mean, people didn't really look at Mayor Pete as this leader who was ready to be president either. I mean, they like the intelligence and the spunk. I got an
iguana to make me seem more human.
Everyone should be watching Our Cartoon President.
Absolutely, you should.
It's so good. The and I think Stacey Abrams probably falls to the same sort of lot. You know, she almost became governor of Georgia. That's not really the same thing as like.
So a story I read this
and
week.
I think her history in Georgia was sort of like she was a state representative or something like that.
I think, yeah.
And maybe she was a mayor of somewhere at some point, but not like Atlanta, I don't think.
I don't know about that, but yeah, I know she was a state representative.
I think she was a secondary mayor of some, she was Macon, Georgia's mayor or something like that before she...
Here's what I read in a story this week, though, that Georgia's in play.
Yeah.
For the first time in Jimmy Carter, since Jimmy Carter maybe?
Yeah.
And that they've fallen off the list because they don't want to tap out good candidates who might turn governorship, Senate seat, other House races into they don't want to take away good candidates when there are other good candidates to have in the VP.
Right.
And John Lewis's seat is now going to be vacant. I don't think that he was still up for election, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I mean, like he would have been. I think how it works, if I remember correctly, is that they're going to the party nominates somebody else to fill his spot on the ballot.
No, I think we're too close. I think that his name's on it, and if you vote for John Lewis, you are allowing the party to nominate a person.
No, I'm pretty sure it goes the other, because Kemp was saying that they didn't want to hold a special election because they're already having an election.
Oh, okay.
So effectively, like, you could vote for John Lewis because his name will physically be on the ballot,
but it's actually a vote for someone else.
It's a vote for whoever the Democratic Party sort of says is going to be taking over John Lewis's spot.
So there are two really good names there.
Yeah,
for John Lewis, and I don't know if either of them lives in his district. Mayor
Lance
of Atlanta.
Bottoms would.
Yeah, probably.
But, I don't know if she wants to give up the mayorship to.
And there you go.
Run for Congress. It's a. I think the good news here for Joe is that everyone who is sort of being discussed is a qualified, reasonable pick. I think you have a dearth of riches here to an extent.
Yeah.
I'm not as excited about some of them as I am others, but even though I'm not personally excited about Kamala Harris, I still feel like if something happened to Joe, she is capable of being president, which is the most important thing that I have to be worried about.
And
politically, I might not align with her, but just in general, can she be president? Because it's something I don't feel the same way with Trump and Pence. Like if Trump chokes on a ham sandwich or something like that, and Pence becomes president, I'm not like, oh, good, thank God we have somebody who really knows what the fuck's going on behind Trump.
And maybe now Pence does a better job than he did. My concern is
I feel like Pence would do a better job than Trump just because he's not like a lunatic.
Yeah.
But I don't think he would do a better job than any president who had been elected as a Republican in the last 50 years, like
my concern is always, it's never what happens towards the end of a term, because then the VP has some experience in the executive department and he has good staff around him. It's that we're electing 70-year-old men and he could have a heart attack on February 1st. And now you have Stacey Abrams, who I think is a great candidate and represents what we want as part of this ticket.
But is she ready to go on day one?
Yeah, if he has a heart attack on February 1st and she's got to step up and take the presidency, does she? And the people are also new in their positions. Like, hey, Secretary of State who is getting confirmed in 15 minutes, I need a briefing on everything, basically. So
tell me everything that's happened for the last 50 years.
Yeah. So Kamala, as much as I may not like her, personally, is the person who could step up and take it on day one.
Yeah. Elizabeth Warren, I feel, could do the same thing. And in ways, I think there's arguments that could be made for the other favorites I don't feel as confident about Tammy Duckworth as I do the other two senators, but I think that her story is very good, and she has been. I think there's something to be said about the idea of having somebody who is a veteran, like on the front of the ticket there, because it really kneecaps Trump at a place where he sort of has blind followership right now. Like people just think he's doing a good job with the military because he says he's doing a good job, but nobody knows what the intricacies of running a military are.
But hey, this person knows. She knows a lot about the military because, she served in the military. And also, I just like the idea of a vice president who's not going to waste $40,000 going to a game and walking out.
That's true.
Before the kickoff.
Yeah.
But of that list, this week's events have really made me excited about Elizabeth Warren as vice president, because I would really like to see her sitting as president of the Senate during the Sherman antitrust hearings that seem like they may be coming in the future.
Yeah. The tech CEOs of Google, Facebook, Amazon, who else was up there? Apple.
Yeah. Not in that order on your screen. On the order of your screen from left to right are Google, Amazon,
Microsoft,
Facebook, and Apple.
Okay, yeah, I'm still waiting for it to pop up here.
Sorry.
But,
No,
it's okay.
Gates didn't actually testify.
Well, no, but he's not the CEO
that's right.
of Microsoft anymore.
That's right.
I can't.
He's off
I
giving his
always,
money away.
Again, the curse that is my life. I never know how to pronounce people's. I can hear somebody say the name to me, and until I've said it out loud myself, I know it's not going to come out right. Yeah. So I don't even want to like fake act like I know how to pronounce the CEO of Microsoft, but it's like Sundar Pichai or something like that.
Oh wait.
So,
actually, I think that is who the guy is on the far left.
Yeah.
Who's the guy who founded or is the CEO of Google?
So it's not. It's not. I mean, Larry Page and
they're the founders.
They're
right?
the founders, but the head of Google, he's got a beard and like the black hair.
You threw me off. Sundar Pichai is the CEO
is that Google?
of Google.
Okay,
and that is the gentleman on your left-hand side.
Yeah.
Okay.
Microsoft guy is bald.
CEO of Microsoft is Satya Nadella.
That's it. Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry.
Or probably Nadella.
Yeah. But they got called in front of Congress to have a discussion about whether or not
what was the thing we used to do 2 years ago? Socially acceptable racism. We confused the two Indian gentlemen. Apologies.
Yes.
Trying our best.
We're
not in the billionaire class, Corey. I don't know if you know. I don't know if you know this, Corey. We're not in the billionaire class. These aren't guys we hang out with very often.
I mean,
my rice pile very small.
It's 1/5 of a grain of rice.
Actually, I owe somebody a grain of rice. I think is where I'm at right now. Actually,
Fannie Mae's got my hypothetical rice.
I owe Sally Mae. It's Sally Mae. I owe her 3 grains of rice before I even start grabbing grains of rice at this point. So,
well, maybe Jeff Bezos will lose a couple of grains of his rice, and you can pick them up and take care of your problems.
Literally, if he forgets to scoop up his entire pile, I could change my life forever.
For the people who don't know what we're talking about, there was a great viral video that I'll put in the show notes here.
Viral TikTok.
Yeah, of somebody who basically made a grain of rice equal $100,000, and then showed how different people are. You know, like if you're a millionaire, you have this many grains of rice, and if you're a billionaire, you have this many grains of rice. And then he brought in 50 pounds of rice to show you how much Jeff Bezos has.
And then took the time to be like, this is the house that he bought in L.A.
Right.
Here
I'm just going to separate out a small little portion of his big, huge pile.
If he gave everyone $20 an hour who worked for Amazon, this is what it would cost him.
Yeah.
It's not much rice, by the way.
And, I mean, this is really most capitalists sort of have the opinion that when a industry starts to burgeon on its own, it's best to sort of leave it unrestrained and let it see where it goes on its own. Obviously, if there's something very noticeably wrong with what's going on, then you should put a stop to that. But we're getting to the point now where we basically know how the internet works and how people are going to use it.
Are you saying like if investment banks get too big, we should probably put the brakes on that?
I mean, we should, but I don't think that's part of the plan.
Okay, no.
Yeah. Go ahead. The big tech companies are without a doubt at the point where they need to start being regulated a bit. And I think Bezos didn't do himself any favors on the stand, on the virtual stand, talking about how Amazon does its business. So
hey, also, I don't know if you know this, Corey, but Facebook is just a scrappy startup, and they're doing the best they can right now.
I mean, they're giving 30% of every dollar they make in subscriptions to Apple. So I don't know.
It's just, it's weird for me. And again, 2020 is a weird year, but it's weird for me for like Tim Cook aside, because Tim Cook, again, I focus on Bezos and Zuckerberg here because they are the founders and the CEOs of their product.
Right.
And for Google, the founder's gone, not gone, but they're spending their money and
Yeah.
doing their thing. And they've done smartly. They've said, let's bring in a guy who knows a business and put him in charge of the business.
Right.
And for Apple, obviously Steve Jobs has passed on now, so they have somebody else. Microsoft, again, Bill Gates is spending his money or giving it away, really, giving away all his money. Oh, and he's also trying to chip every human being on the planet.
Because why wouldn't you?
Yeah, of course. If you had the money, why wouldn't you? But I focus on those two just because whatever they're arguing benefits them personally. And not that the other CEOs don't benefit, but Zuckerberg takes a check as CEO, but he also has stock that is worth. His billions are in stock. Bezos' billions are in stock.
Right. I mean, it's trust me, Bezos still has plenty of money in which to operate with. But yes, hypothetically, if tomorrow Amazon went to zero, if they had an Ellen Show moment and it all came crashing down, then I think that Bezos, would walk away with, a couple $100 million still in what he has on his person.
Well, I was going to say, if South Park style, we pulled the plug on the internet, and Amazon couldn't function anymore, he's still going to be all right. Don't worry about
he's still
Jeff
got
Bezos.
enough money to support multiple generations of grandchildren. Or
a small country.
Buy his own.
Yeah.
Bezos bought Peru. It's the biggest problem here is that me and Rob can have a conversation about how we need to regulate the internet, because we have even while I wouldn't acknowledge being an expert in any way whatsoever, we still have a generally good idea of what's going on here. The problem is that half of the time that these CEOs are spending in front of Congress is them going like, why does Google hate conservative voices and stuff like that? And it's just like, well, it's not how it works.
Yeah.
It all depends on what you want, because it's an algorithm based on what you want. So like if you go on somebody else's YouTube, you're going to see a whole bunch of other suggested videos that you wouldn't have because they have different interests from you.
Mr. Baker, the people of my district are very happy. I'm trying to understand why there are so many unhappy single women in my district. Can you explain that to me?
They all seem to want to, can I say this on the house floor? They want to fuck. I don't know. I feel like I'm pretty tied into my community, and I don't know why so many.
Mr. Jordan, it's an algorithm. It gives you what you're searching for.
Yeah,
so.
If you go to a lot of porn sites, you're gonna get that. How dare you? How dare you? I'm angry. I'm gonna angrily jerk off now.
No, it just reminds me. I don't think it was Congress. I think it was like a state house where the guy was sharing his screen for the presentation, and the tab was up there. It was porn.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we should start talking about regulating.
There was also another one, I think, recently that was like the Naked Gun moment where like he had his computer like hooked up to the PA system, and then all of a sudden it was like and it's like, oh no.
But the point of this is, yes, I am, despite all of my thoughts and my arguments otherwise, I am always of the mindset that a new technology should not be taxed or regulated into non-existence.
Yeah.
You got to give it some time. And the benefit of our society is the guys who are regulating it are also asking questions to the CEOs of these companies like, are the tubes clogged? Is that why my internet's so slow? And that's what gives them time to grow, because by the time people get to Congress who understand it,
by the time you get an AOC there,
they've gotten their growth and they're secure. But we've reached a place where we need to start talking about not only regulation, but Microsoft has already had this being broken up and maybe not allowing one company to control so much.
Well, I mean, the thing is that at this point, it's hard to compete, because if so Snapchat got popular, and then as soon as it started to interfere with Instagram's business, first you could say Facebook was popular, and then Instagram got popular, and then Facebook wasn't so happy about Instagram getting popular, and then said, either let us buy you or else we're going to destroy you.
Yes.
And then they sold to Facebook, so now Facebook has Facebook and Instagram, and then all of a sudden Snapchat started getting big, and they're just like, buy you or we'll bury you, and then they were just like, fuck you, and then basically Instagram all of a sudden the next day had all of the best features of Snapchat available on its platform.
It might be hard for you guys to remember, but there was a time before Instagram stories.
Yeah.
And the stories came out because they wanted that. as a part of Facebook and Instagram, and Snapchat said, no, we're going to stay independent. And so they then debuted a product that was exactly in competition with it. And I don't use Snapchat anymore.
Yeah, and that's how it goes, because if everyone's attention moves from one to the other, then
That's what you're doing.
And how do you innovate if someone's just going to steal all your best ideas?
Yeah.
And the problem is that there's no copywriting ideas.
Yep.
And part of the sad thing about this whole thing is that there are a handful of companies that have certain patents, and some of them who have spent very well to obtain some patents, and that impacts how other businesses are able to run. Apple has a couple patents on like the way that communication can happen between devices, and that for a long time was the basis for AirDrop.
Yep.
And you had to, for Google to have an AirDrop competitor on its phone, it had to come up with a different process in which to create that mechanism.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of other Bluetooth to Bluetooth type situations they were trying to figure out, but they could never really duplicate the same exact thing because
you
there was
make
a
it as
patent
easy.
at the end.
Yeah, you couldn't make it as easy because AirDrop is super easy, and then they patent the thing that makes it super easy. And
Yeah.
you're like, oh, shit,
But you can
all right.
only patent the actual device.
Yeah.
Like you can't patent so what we're going to do is just have these little tiny videos that disappear after 24 hours, and they're just going to be on your page on your page.
Yeah.
And they're just like, yeah, you can't patent that. So you just put it out in the world, and then all of a sudden Facebook steals it, and then
Or, as I've been trying to do for the last 20 years, you come up with a good idea, you build a beta, and then just have Facebook buy it. And then you have millions of dollars
Right.
that you never intended on developing into a product, but they want it, so they
Yeah.
give it to them. But I think the more disturbing of the testimony was, again, Bezos, who was saying things like, yes, we design products based on what's popular on the platform. And yes, Amazon basic products are always featured first rather than other products. And if you and I came up with a really great idea, the best way for us to sell it is the Amazon marketplace.
Yeah.
People are already there. They can already pay easily. We can do shipping. We don't have to worry about shipping or billing or anything. It's just
Right.
our product we're providing to them. But now we know that the likelihood is Amazon then sees that, figures out what it is we've done, and creates a very cheap, maybe probably the same cost to them, but they will undercut us until we can't compete and then raise the price of their product once we're not there in the market.
The other part you have to remember is that Amazon, for the first 10 years of the company or something like that, operated at a loss.
Yep.
And this is the same thing that's happening with Netflix now, and it's happening in a bunch of other companies that are doing really well. Some companies seem to be able to get away with this, and some companies don't. Like MoviePass was burning through money, and then eventually they decided, no, it's not worth it anymore. But Amazon was burning through money like crazy when it first started.
MoviePass is a great idea because that inspired AMC and Regal. They took the idea. They did the same thing.
Right.
And now, okay, so we could have kept burning through money and maybe made a profit eventually, but we got undercut by guys who were like, hey, just come to our theaters, just our theaters, and we'll give you the same service.
Yeah. And for less.
And for less.
Yeah. It's the problem, I think, at this point now is that we've reached the point where we need sort of the internet czar.
Yeah.
I don't trust Congress or the Senate or anybody to be able to understand the complexity of what they're talking about. And with the empathy conversation that we had earlier and stuff like that, there's no way that if you cut the amount of money that Jeff Bezos had in half, he's living a comfortable life no matter what.
Oh, wait.
Yeah.
He did. He gave 35% of his wealth to his wife in a divorce.
Yes.
And since the pandemic started, has made that wealth back up.
Right. In less than a year, he's made that, a substantial amount of
Yes.
his net worth back.
Yep. And the next wife will have a prenup, so it'll be good.
The problem though is that Jim Jordan doesn't know how tech companies work. He has staffers who do research and give him things. And honest to God, most of the people who are up there, I say Jim Jordan because he's going to clearly use moments like Fox will pull out moments where he yells at Mark Zuckerberg and put it on air, and then he'll be able to have something in a commercial where he's just like, why are you suppressing Republican voices? And it's just like, Jim Jordan stands for you.
I'm fighting for you.
I'm fighting for you in Washington. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
It's all showmanship and stuff like that. Nobody really has any intricacy in how it works. But, you split Bezos' money in half, right? And then you say you have to dedicate this money towards taking care of your employees.
Yep.
Like, literally everyone is living a better life at this point. Bezos does not need hundreds of billions of dollars.
No person needs that.
I mean, and the problem is that we've had arguments before where you said there's no reason for billionaires. Yes. And to an extent, I understood where you were coming from with this. But at the same time, there are people I feel like who have raised to the level of billionaires, not necessarily because of they were taking advantage of a lot of people on the way up. But like, if you were Alex Rodriguez, right?
Okay.
Made $500 million in playing career money. He's probably made close to $500 million in advertisements and investments. And even if he just put $100 million of the bank of that in the start of his career and just let it sit, he's probably close to $1 billion on that alone right there. He's
Michael
trying to buy the Mets, like
Michael Jordan, Jay-Z, Beyonce.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you were out there, you can make arguments for little tiny bits of this here and there. Like
sure.
Jordan, probably was aware that, Chinese kids were making his shoes for almost no money, and he was making an incredible markup on it and stuff like that.
To be fair, though, that's Nike.
Right.
He is literally getting paid by Nike just for the branding. He has nothing to do with the product.
Yeah, I know. So. But I'm saying, like, at some point he could have said, hey, don't do that shit.
I mean,
and it might have made an impact, but he didn't want to do it because it would cut it. And, you can get on his case about that. But, people who work at Amazon fulfillment centers who, like, are scared to take bathroom breaks and are worried about what they say on the phone like, are...
And I was going to say, I also push off Michael Jordan, Michael Jackson, really, for that measure, Beyonce, Jay-Z, because I look back and I compare them to Andrew Carnegie, Rockefeller, and say, all right, the first generation of white billionaires were really, really terrible people who did terrible things. Now, closer to death, they did really great things, but getting the money, really bad.
Yeah.
Then they spent it really well. So now we're our first generation of black billionaires. And if it means that some shoes were made in Vietnam.
Oprah's a billionaire, and I mean, like, I don't see anything that she did as, like, improper. Like, I
mean, maybe she had some Ellen show stuff going on. I don't know.
By the way, we will get into Ellen at some point. Not today, because I feel like I feel like we talk about Ellen, and then next week we talk about it again because the next shoe will drop.
Yeah, we're waiting on the next shoe to drop. But you did bring up something interesting. You talked about a new internet czar, and I think you're right. We do need that person. Luckily, there's a new politician who might be available very shortly.
Yeah. So the city councilman for this studio right here is a man by the name of Jose Huizar, the 14th district councilman in Los Angeles.
We may have mentioned him before.
Yeah. He got caught up in a bit of corruption and was facing a couple charges. I think it was 4 or 5 counts. And he had a arraignment scheduled for today where he was going to go in front of the judge and say not guilty and fight his charges. And then on Thursday, the FBI or the federal government was able to get a total of 34 charges on the docket, a substantial step up from the 4 or 5 that were before.
Yeah.
And the message I sent to Rob was, this sounds an awful lot like the federal government was upset with Huizar, like, not taking a plea, like, just not getting this done with.
We were ready to be done with this, but if you want to fight, well, okay.
If you want to go to court, if that's your choice, then we're going to choose to give you every single charge we were going to. We were being nice and letting you off the hook on a couple of these things, but if you want to go, you can go.
We were going to send you to jail for 10 years, but now...
Yeah.
Now we're going to see what the jury says.
The problem is that, if you are a defendant in a criminal court case, number one, the federal government specifically, but the state as well, usually has unlimited budget for which to fight whatever case they want.
Good thing he took those bribes.
And
allegedly took those.
And when you're taking when you got 34 counts against you, that is very difficult to defend in court. You're even if you had one of the best lawyers in the world doing the best job he could, you're still probably going to be found guilty on at least a handful of those charges.
Yep.
And those charges will come with a considerable amount of time.
And rather than
even if it's not the top line items, you're still spending probably a decade in jail at the very least.
And rather than the plea with the agreed upon statement of facts and the recommendation, now it's just like, well, I mean, he's facing 40 to life with the total of these charges. Judge, we're just going to leave this in your hands. You decide.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the problem here is that the corruption is, the alleged corruption is not only disappointing because of what it is, but it's also disappointing because it's so rinky-dink.
Yeah.
Like, so effectively what happened, again, allegedly, is that developers who wanted to build large, new apartment complexes or multi-use centers and stuff like that would have to get approval from the city, and the chair of the planning department was Jose Huizar.
Mm-hmm. So
he would use that influence over the rest of the members of the board or the other council members on that board to get kickbacks for himself. There were trips to Vegas where, escorts were paid for. There was a $800,000 sexual harassment lawsuit that was settled by a Chinese developer.
And I mean, again, it's the fact that everyone on the board or on that board trusted him, and basically he ran it.
Yeah.
So they looked to him to be like, so should we? Or?
Well, he was also so before Garcetti, there was Antonio Villaraigosa, who was the mayor of Los Angeles, and apparently Huizar and him were very close. So Huizar was kind of picked out of like a school board seat to run for the council because of the closeness between him and Villaraigosa. And I think Villaraigosa was 14 as well. Like, he was in this district before Huizar.
He moved up to mayor. Let's pick somebody to come up in this district.
And I like him because he's on the school board. He's one of my guys. Like, he can replace me kind of thing.
Well, and again, every reason to just say, hey, Jose, what should we do? Yes, no?
Yeah.
And you get the runaway jury problem, which is if you can get someone on a jury, then basically you can sell what guilty or innocent. What do you want?
Well,
state? How much are you willing to pay state? I can get
the problem is that there's too many headshots within the charges too. There's tax evasion and shit like that you're just going to die 1,000 paper cuts of your your illegal use of a bank statement for personal gain. All these like charges that all they have to have is one signature on a sheet and be like, so you had $1 million when you bought this house, and it's just like, oh, so you didn't. You said you did.
You said you had it.
Yeah.
And the problem is that it's the multi-round headshot, because it's like, if I show that you had this money, that is a bribe. So we got you on the bribe. You also didn't report it on your taxes. I also get you on the taxes. So like proving one thing can have this waterfall effect down on other charges. And
I mean, eventually he's going to have to plea, right? There's no.
I would imagine so.
He can't really bring this to. The only way he brings it to case, a fugitive situation where it's like the one-armed man did it or something. Like, you have to be 100% not committed to the. Like you were in Bolivia the entire time there.
Yeah.
There has to be something like really wrong with this case at this point to get free of it.
In LA, it doesn't work. But if you were in a smaller city or smaller town, you might roll the dice on like, I'm so beloved here.
Yeah.
That I can find get one person on this jury who's just like, my councilman would not do this. I don't care what you're going to tell me. He wouldn't do it.
See, I think the problem, though, is that the only way he would be able to work that angle is if he's willing to go on the stand.
Yes.
And there is no way that you can let him do that because he will not.
I mean, again, and
politicians think they're so good because they're all former lawyers and they're like, I know how to not incriminate myself when I'm up here.
Nope.
They make the fucking worst witnesses on the stand.
You have no idea, sir, what it is that you're supposed to be doing.
That's what got Blagojevich so bad.
Yeah.
He was just like, no, I can just go up there and charm my way out of this one. And then when you don't answer a direct question and the judge is like, I'm going to need you to answer that. And it's just like, oh, fuck, that's right.
Okay.
Well, that's right. If I don't tell the truth, I go to jail.
Yeah, the other problem is he's got to draw from the federal pool of LA, which means Corey is a possible juror for him. I don't think he'd get picked based on your previous opinions of Jose Huizar. But I'm just saying, it's like
the lawyer just leans on the thing. He's just like, have you ever talked about Mr. Huizar in a podcast, perhaps? And I'm just like, yes.
Yep, a lot.
It's like, all right, well,
pretty
fine.
often. But I mean, like in a small town though, or like a small city where it's just like everybody really does love you. Maybe you do it. It's not LA.
Yeah.
It's like, have you ever heard of Jose Huizar? And he's like, no. Who is that? Where do you live? Downtown. He's your councilman. There's a council? Wait, like Senate? The House?
I thought Garcetti picked all those people.
Yeah. You mean Garcetti? No. There's another body.
These are the ones who actually run everything.
No, not aware.
My favorite part about LA is that you have the council, which is very powerful and has a lot of influence, and then you have the Board of Estimates, which is even more powerful and is like, I don't know if you get elected to it or if there's like a skull ceremony where they decide who gets to be a part of it or something like that.
The Board of Estimates is the county, right?
Yeah, it's like the LA County Board of Estimates or something like that. But it's like such a shadowy organization. It's so weird. It's
also, we're in a city that takes up most of the county.
It's like a tribunal.
We're in a city that takes up most of the county, but we also have like county boards and city board. And I'm like,
I know.
What's the point?
Well, it's because so many different parts of LA at some point decided like, nah, I think I'm just gonna do my own thing. So like Santa Monica was just like, yeah, so we don't really want to be city of LA anymore. So we're just gonna be city of Santa Monica. It's like Beverly Hills is like, we'll do that too.
West Hollywood, I think
West
too?
Hollywood, yeah. Like you'll just find like all these little pockets of like cities that don't want to be LA City. They want to be their own thing, and then it's fine. But I always thought it was amazing when Baltimore is the largest incorporated city in America. Yeah. Like the largest city that is fully contained within its own county.
Well, give it time, because if the white people in the L have their way, they're gonna separate out.
Yeah,
New
Baltimore,
Baltimore City County, and then there'll be well, they'll call it the L word, and that'll be the new city that's inside of it. So
Larchmont.
Well,
an upscale Baltimore community.
Although, I mean, we're working on it, right? Like, Johns Hopkins has their own cops, and eventually they'll all just be private police forces.
By the way, at some point when there's not a lot of news, we're going to talk about what Baltimore's been doing with all the housing projects that they've been tearing down. Guess what? Upscale housing development.
White people. That's what they're doing. They're trying to turn that white L into a white square.
Let's get rid of all these black people and put white people in its place. So what? Real quick, just last thing on Huizar here.
Yes.
It's very upsetting to me because I think when we first got here, we went to Back on Broadway, which was a big event that he threw every year, which is you get into all the old theaters that are on Broadway here. And
I was going to say, your first mention of him on the podcast was a positive one.
Yeah.
Like, there's a councilman. Oh, he's letting us go into the old theaters.
Well, it's not even that. I just said I was like, he's gotten himself a lot of really big spots on the council, and he looks like he's setting himself up to, when Garcetti terms out, then he might run for mayor. Like, I could totally see him being mayor of LA here someday. And he had that kind of pedigree, I guess, if you will. He had that sort of like aura about him. Like this might be a future mayor of LA. And to think that, again, allegedly, that what he has gotten from all the dirty tricks and bribery that was going on is $1.5 million, maybe $2.5 million if we're counting the paying of the
money he didn't
sexual
keep.
harassment.
Yeah.
Like I haven't been able to get a straight up and down as whether that's part of the 1.5 or if that's separate.
Yeah. But
$2.5 million, like McConnell makes that every single year, and he doesn't do obviously crooked things to make that money. Like,
I mean,
well, I know, but I'm saying like he
does.
He does, but I'm saying like he's not taking a direct. There's nothing showing McConnell taking like direct bribes from people.
Yes.
He's able to cover it up enough where it's just like, oh, it'd be really nice if my book sold a lot next week, and then like the Koch brothers are just like, I guess we're buying 2 million copies of McConnell's book.
And it just looks like Amazon sales, and Bezos makes out money too. Isn't everybody happy?
But it's shocking to me that like, the example I made is like Rob comes home and he's just like, yeah, I lost my job today, but I got this ream of paper on the way out the door. And I'm just like, you could have made so much more money if you didn't lose your job. Like the ream of paper is worth nothing. Like if he was mayor, if he did a really good job as mayor and he could maybe become governor or maybe president, like he had enough. He had that sort of like golden boy thing going on about him where you felt like
he was young too, right? He's in his 40s.
He was young. He had, an engaged wife and 4 kids, 4 really beautiful kids. And he lived in Boyle Heights, and he sort of had this like rise up with LA sort of thing that was going on in his own life. And
Yeah.
he just seemed like everything was going right for him. And then all of a sudden, like it's just like the number of times where you hear about somebody like Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky. Like, I remember when that first came out, I was just like, why would you do it? Like, what? How much do you possibly need to have like indiscriminate sex with somebody?
Yeah.
That like, this is going to be really bad if people find out, and it's more likely to be found out than if you were, Bill the plumber. Like,
That's what
Bill
makes
the
it
plumber.
fun,
Bill the
man.
plumber gets like, gets random blowjobs and nobody knows about it. Like it can stay under wraps. If you're the president, it doesn't work that way. Like it gets out eventually,
Been watching a lot of Chandra Levy documentaries.
Yeah.
Same deal. Gary Hart could have been president.
Yeah.
It's not Gary Hart. Is it Gary Hart?
Yeah.
Yeah. Could have been president. Threw it away for and I mean the intern went missing. He probably didn't have anything to do with that, but ruined everything.
Yeah.
To have sex with a 22-year-old.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, I'm going to ruin everything and go home in disgrace and get divorced. So
I mean, like it's just like I threw away my whole political career and the rest of my life for the $1.5 million, and to us, somebody
lot.
said like,
Yeah.
hey, I have a scheme where you can make $1.5 million. I'd be like, yeah, sure, why not? But like for him, he could make so much.
yeah.
He could have termed out on the council this year. He could have gone to become a lawyer at a company. He didn't even have to be a lawyer. He could just be hired to be a face at a company that represents developers who are looking to get things past the council.
Yep.
And he would make $750,000 a year or more every single year he was on this council, where they would call him up a couple times a week and be like, hey, how do we get past this thing in the LA City Council about, an environmental impact report or something. He's like, oh, okay, so here's how you get around that. $750,000 a year. He could have been making that money easy for the rest of his life if he wanted to.
Yep.
And he threw it all away for just like cheap rips right now. Like it's astonishing.
I mean, or like you said, he could have challenged Garcetti in
Yeah,
18 months or whatever, or 2 years.
He could have sold a book and made more than $1.5 million. Like,
Yeah.
if you're the governor or the mayor of LA and you write a book about how you turned everything around, even if it's not fucking true.
Yeah. I was going to say,
Hogan's going to make more than $1.5 million on that book he's selling. Like, and the only reason he wrote it is because he needs to elevate himself to become president. Like,
he's got that George W. Bush thing, like the Texas Miracle that actually didn't happen, but got him elected president.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I still live in Boyle Heights, and I brought my city up with me, and now I'm ready to do the same thing for America. And then if you do a little digging, not so much. City pretty much the same, but it's a good story. And
I
that's
grew
what's
up in
important.
Connecticut.
But let's lightning round these last couple of things.
Yeah.
But let me see. What do I get my screen back over here? Up first, story that's not going to be a story, so it doesn't matter, but I want to talk about it anyway. It turns out the Trump campaign allegedly may have laundered money to funnel campaign funds into the president's pocket, direct kids to people in the, other people in the family.
Yeah.
So essentially, if you donated to the Trump for President committee in 2016, some of that money ended up in
Went toward Ivanka's handbag.
Well, I mean, that was okay because she was working for the campaign and that she has a stipend for,
Right,
for the
right.
thing.
Yeah.
I see what you mean. Yeah, so she actually opened her handbag and some cash went in it.
Right.
Yes, that's actually happened too.
The stipend handbag had cash inside of it.
Yes. And on the scale of does
The
this-
legal thing had illegal things inside of it.
the legal thing.
The legal thing that shouldn't be illegal had illegal things inside of it.
So in the end, what does this matter? Probably not at all. We're not going to bring impeachment proceedings in August of the election year, but it could bring things two ways. Either one, Trump gets reelected, and they will be talking about this in 2021. It'll be the thing that, like, all right, let's take a second go at him. And the American people can understand. You donated money to his campaign. He personally benefited from that in this very direct way.
Yeah.
It's a lot less complicated than the emoluments clause and everything else we tried to get him on. Or he gets voted out of office, and then Joe gets to decide whether or not he's going to do what Barack did and just say, hey, we're going to forget about the war crimes and move on.
Yeah.
Or is he going to say, we need to change things. I'm going to set an example. We have this very strong money laundering case to go with. So.
And the problem being that if Joe comes into office and then says, I'm not going to stand in the way of the Southern District prosecuting the shit out of Trump, then Republicans will say that Joe Biden is doing exactly what everyone was worried Trump would do and prosecute his political opponents. And, he didn't do it to Hillary. He beat Hillary and she went away and it was no big deal. But,
Although, wait,
now
he did absolutely do that.
Yeah.
Well, Congress did that
well,
many times.
they brought her in front of, panels for Benghazi and stuff.
16 Benghazi hearings, yes.
But there was no trying to charge her for something after the race was over. He was in front of crowds that were chanting "lock her up." So I mean, it's not like it wasn't within the realm of discussion at the time.
Are we sure they weren't talking about Ivanka because she was taking the campaign money?
Because of the handbag, with the money inside of it.
Maybe we misunderstood that all along, and
maybe it was just trolls at all the Trump rallies that are just chanting "lock her up," and we thought it was about Hillary.
Is it possible that they saw her actually stuffing cash into a bag backstage?
Hey, lock her up!
Yeah, and it just got run away, and he was like, "Yeah, lock her up," and we misunderstood this all along.
20% of the crowd, which was dumb idiot Hicks, were just like, "Yeah, Hillary Clinton, lock her up." Did I offend people? Did I step over? Did I step over a line?
I kind of would have just released this as a QAnon and just see if we can get it. You think we can get that rolling?
It reminds me of Hillary, like when she was just like the deplorables comment. Like, I just wish she would have gone further at this point. She should have sort of gone on stage and just been like, you know what, 50% of the country is fucking stupid as shit, and I don't know what to do about it. You're just dumb. And if you're saying to yourself, I don't know the dumb people, you're the dumb people.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
if you can't immediately figure out the dumb people in your life, you're the dumb people in your life.
And everything we've seen for the last 4 or 5 months has proven that point to be absolutely correct. And I would stand by her now. Not then. And not now because, as you know, I'm running for president. And I don't think that...
It's not good political PR for you to back something that Hillary was...
No. And I don't want to say that people are dumb. They're not dumb, but certainly... you're not smart.
There's a lack of imagination, which is appalling.
When
curiosity has been lacking in your mind.
You had in first grade, creativity is king, and it's all you got to do is stay in the lines, man. All you got to do is stay in the lines. And there was somebody who was just like, "I'm gonna make a purple dinosaur," and then scribbled across the whole page.
Yeah,
that's half of the people in this country. And I just want to be like, listen, you can make a purple dinosaur. That makes no sense. By the way, they had feathers. Yeah. That's science. I know you don't care about that. I know the movie, they look like crocodiles with the skin, and they're not feathers. They had feathers. But forgetting the science, make it purple. I don't care. Just stay in the lines. That's all I got to ask. And they're scribbling across the whole page.
Fuck you, libtard.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway.
But in other unconstitutional news
yes.
from the presidency, Trump the other day on Twitter and then in front of a room full of reporters floated the idea that perhaps because the election is so surely going to be corrupt because of the mail-in voting, which is different from the absentee voting, somehow Trump said he voted absentee and that process is good.
Yeah.
But the mail-in voting, which is the same exact process, is not good.
Yeah.
And that's going to be corrupt.
Absolutely.
And everyone in California got sent a ballot. I know that for a fact because I have a ballot that was sent to me.
Well, let me tell you why that is.
And there's apparently I'm just going to give this ballot to somebody who's going to fill it out for me, and then they're going to send it in on my behalf. And
it's about the quality of the people. Trump,
right?
Trustworthy. Mm-hmm. Above standard intellect.
Yeah.
Tyrannosaurus, Apple.
I mean,
the thing was.
Yeah, like man, woman, camera, TV.
Got it.
Yeah.
Also white. So we know the absentee ballots are totally trustworthy.
Right.
What we can't have is these mail-in ballots, which are absolutely different in so much as they are marked mail-in and not absentee.
Yeah. You don't have to specifically ask for it.
Yes. Are going, I don't know if you're aware of this, to everyone, including people of color.
Regardless of whether or not they're white?
Regardless of color. And,
holy shit.
We
got to get on top of this.
They haven't been given the same aptitude test that the president was given.
Yeah.
And because of that,
they don't know if it's man, woman, camera, TV. They
absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
It's completely untrustworthy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. It almost makes me feel like the president doesn't want everyone to vote. I mean, like, I don't know how to come to any other conclusion other than that. Like, to me, if I was just like, vote for me, I would want to win the plurality of the most votes and have the most people involved.
Well, in this election,
But
really
it
should be a
seems like
majority.
specifically he just wants to have the people at Waffle Houses voting, not like everyone else.
Well,
Like,
you know what? I'm not going to have you deride the good people who go to Waffle House.
he
I'm
just
gonna
wants
say,
boat owners to vote.
The people at Waffle House after 1 a.m. That's who he wants to
the
vote.
boardroom of a Trump company.
Yes. I mean, I think he would prefer if just he got to vote, and that was it. He could,
Only me. I'm the only one who did it, and I voted for me. Wait a minute,
100%.
I voted for Joe. Shit. There's a hanging Chad. You see this Chad here? He's hanging.
and keep in mind, by the way, so I put up the tweet there.
The acting DHS secretary, Chad Wolf, just pops around. He's like, were you talking for me? It's like, get the fuck away from me, Chad. Your whole Portland thing was fucked up.
He would absolutely not say that, all right? It was fantastic, and he's going to send in the
You
National
didn't
Guard.
kill enough protesters before they found out. You're dead to me.
By the way, today, he's going to send the National Guard in.
Yeah.
We send in the contractors. If they can't get control of it now that we've pulled the contractors out, we're going to send in the National Guard.
My favorite part was it was getting peaceful, and then all of a sudden, federal troops came in, or federal officers came in.
Yeah.
And then it got violent, and then the federal officers left, and then it got
Peaceful.
peaceful. And now it's starting to get violent again when they're talking about bringing people in. It's like, I wonder why this keeps happening to me. I wonder why when I poke this dog, he bites me. Like,
So
why is this happening?
there was, back in 2003, I want to feel like, there was a major city that the National Guard, for the most part, invaded. Baghdad. That's right.
Oh,
It
yeah.
was Baghdad. Yeah. We went and invaded Baghdad. And it's weird that we would be using the same language about, like, well, if they don't get their leadership in line, I'm going to have to send in the troops.
Did you see the great statue that was erected in Portland, by the way?
Absolutely. I saw it and I was like, I should get the picture, and then I forgot to get the picture. It's a Trump. It's in honor of Trump.
There is a statue with black letter or gold lettering that Trump would just love. It's a rented van, and it's showing some protester being pulled into the van while Trump is taking a selfie with a selfie stick on the outside.
Yes,
chef kiss.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you to whoever did that. But to keep in mind, by the way, the other side of this story is that Trump is saying the election is not safe. We are not safe to do absentee balloting, and we are going to have to do absentee balloting.
Yeah.
So it's not safe to go vote. Absentee balloting is not safe. We should just push this election.
It'll be safe to send your kids to school, though, so don't worry about that.
Oh, well,
part.
yeah, there's that. So,
what I think a lot of people forget about how the Constitution and the presidency works is Congress has the decision as to whether or not an election gets postponed.
yes.
And Pelosi has said no. So I think that's basically where we're laying. It's going to happen on November 3rd. I mean, I'd be fine with it happening sooner, but November 3rd apparently is where we decided to stay. If, for whatever reason, a month goes by and we don't have all the results, and then Trump decides to sue, and it has to work through courts to get to the Supreme Court, maybe we don't have a decision right away by the time of January 20th. Trump doesn't get to remain president while the court process works out. At noon on the 20th, he's no longer president anymore. His term has ended. If there is a problem, if there is an open discussion as to whether or not Joe Biden would become president,
yes,
then Nancy Pelosi takes over until that is settled. She becomes the president, like, for the time being. I can't imagine that. If I told my dad he had a choice between Joe Biden or Nancy Pelosi, I think he would just be like, fucking fine, Joe Biden. All right? This is what you're trying to do to me? You're trying to kill me inside?
Because let me tell you what happens if President Pelosi gets into office. There's going to be a lot of executive orders on that 12-hour period while we're figuring out what's happening.
There will be some new Supreme Court justices by the end of business.
But you're also taking into account there, Corey, that he would allow any of that to happen.
Well, I mean, are we talking about the gamesmanship of what actually happens here? Because I'm pretty sure he doesn't have his commander-in-chief powers anymore as soon as the noon on the 20th rolls around, that automatically becomes Pelosi. So, if he's in his desk, like clutching onto the couch going like, I won't go.
Yeah.
Then, once it's 12:01, Pelosi can just say like, hey, can we get a couple army guys in there to just drag him out of this fucking place?
Would they do that though?
I mean, if she's the president, there's not much you can really, do you want to be court-martialed because you decided to take a stand on a completely legal command?
All I'm saying is that we discussed the many laws that make it illegal to use National Guard and other troops as police, and yet we continue to use National Guard and other troops as police.
Oh yeah.
So
I'm not saying it would be a great day for America. I'm just saying that, at the end of the day, there's worry that Trump will try and figure out some sort of way to steal the election, steal his re-election. And I'm saying that if it comes down to some hope that he is going to win this in the court of law, if it takes too long, which you're already at the disadvantage of, that's going to take a little while to count all these votes.
Election night is not the night.
November 3rd, do not expect to find out who the president is.
No.
It's probably going to take a week or two. I just can't imagine that, Trump really wants the I want to be dragged out of this fucking house thing going on. I don't think Pelosi wants to do it either, but I think that at a certain point, he can't just stay in there forever.
So not that he is a student.
There's going to be an Amon Bundy situation going on here.
Not that he's a student of history, but I will concede that Stephen Miller probably is, and maybe a convenient fire in the Capitol might eliminate the ability for Congress to meet, and then therefore emergency powers go to the president. And
before they march to the White House, Melania Trump has this big elegant dinner that she serves to all the troops before they burn the White House down.
And they blame the fire on some communists, and then we invade Canada. We invade Canada because some guys dress up in Canadian Army uniforms and then go across the border and then start lobbing stones over the border, and then we go in.
Some of those Antifa wearing hockey uniforms, so they must be Canadian.
So it's time to invade.
There's no way Americans would do that.
Yeah. And everybody laughs at that's how Hitler got emergency powers in Germany.
Yeah.
Burned down the Reichstag, which was the capital for Germany, and then he was like, "Oh, you guys don't have a place to meet. Okay, I'm going to take the emergency powers for just a few weeks until we can figure this out." And then it was 1945.
In the meantime, how far away is Warsaw? I'm just curious.
In the meantime, no, wait, not Warsaw. All right. First, it was the Sudetenland and Czechoslovakia.
Yeah,
he was going to.
Yeah.
I don't know what the capital of Czechoslovakia is, because now it's the Czech Republic and Slovakia. Whatever it is. Yeah, it was marched through Czechoslovakia, and then it was meet with the Peace in Our Time.
Yeah.
And then it was Warsaw. Yes.
I forget there were other steps.
There's a lot of things in between there. The fascism is fast marching, all right? It takes time.
All right. Well, talking about things that are fast marching, you know where you can go to get all the quickest news, and by that I mean every Tuesday.
What's that?
OhTheAnthem.com. Corey to OhTheAnthem.com. Oh, the Anthem on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and the listener line, 443-219-7595.
What's that number again?
443-219-7595. You can find more of me at my website, CoreyBakerFilmmaker.com, Facebook.com/CoreyBakerFilm, and at LegendCB5 on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, for as long as TikTok remains a thing, before Trump throws that one out too. That's, again, another story, just not enough time for this one. And I have a new review for Palm Springs that will be up tonight. I just have to finish editing it and putting it on YouTube, and it'll be out to you, so go check that out, because I feel like people aren't talking about that one as much. I mean, it was popular on Twitter for the week after it was released, but it was the highest selling film in the history of Sundance, and I feel like that used to
mean something.
Filmmakers used to build their entire careers on, well, I'm just going to sell this thing at Sundance for $17 million, and this one actually happened, and yet it seems to not be the beacon of light for independent filmmakers. So if you're an aspiring filmmaker and you're interested in that sort of thing, go check it out.
All right. And of course, you can find more of me at Robert and Chico on all your social networks. I'll figure out which side is which before we're done with this thing. You can find more information at robertandcheek.com. You find links to the blog and to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/RobCheek, where the Everyman Movie Review will continue to post per week all the way through the end of the year. So enjoy that. And the books, which are available on Amazon.
Buy those books.
And we got some fun stuff coming with the Anthem, but that may include audiobook versions of the book. So if you prefer audiobooks, look for that coming later on this year. And of course, I would be bereft if I didn't say, check out robcheekforpresident.com, Rob Cheek for Prez on all your social networks, and give a like, give a support for the campaign. We're bringing change slowly but surely. Maybe.
We'll see about that.
We'll see.
All right. Well, I think we've done good here today.
We've done something. I don't know if it's good. But as always, you're listening to the Oh the Anthem podcast, part of the Oh the Anthem digital network. For Corey, this is Rob. Have a great week, everybody.
Toodaloo.